Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. So, after I was done recording the past episode of Show and Tell, it wasn't until after I was done recording that I realized that that episode was going up on February 1st. Time has no meaning right now, just so you know. And February 1st is, of course, G.I. Joe Day. If you don't know why February 1st is G.I. Joe Day, it is because February 1st marks the day that the original G.I. Joe line, and we were talking way back to like the 12-inch line, was premiered at Toy Fair. So that is a special day for G.I. Joe collectors. And to mark the day, Hasbro did reveal some digital renders of some new figures. And as a bonus, at the end of this episode, we'll actually be talking about that instead of waiting until the next Show and Tell episode. So stick around after we're done looking at some of the stuff here, because we will be talking about those renders that were released on Sunday. Now also, if you watched that episode of Show and Tell, and if you haven't, why not, card and link right here, I had mentioned that I was going to be taking a look at a Mythic Legions figure today that I had received in the mail that I was kind of excited about. But the more I thought about it, and with it being February 1st, and with it being the week of February 1st, and with G.I. Joe really being like my main collection, like it really is pretty much the focus of this channel. And I have a lot of G.I. Joe that hasn't been opened, mainly because I received a lot of it in December during I received a lot of it during the holidays when I didn't have a chance to look at it. Today, we are going to be sort of pivoting back into the G.I. Joe collection. So leave us a like, because today we have a lot to take a look at. Now, everything that's lined up right here, including the card backs back there, we're not going to be looking at everything today. We are going to be splitting this whole set up into 2 episodes. This is what I'm affectionately referring to as the cartoon collection, because all of the figures that we have right here have either been designed off of the Sunbow cartoon design, or, especially with these 3 right up front, directly references the Sunbow cartoon, because we have our 3 mass device box sets, 1 figure box sets for the rest. We have the 3 mass device box sets here, and then in the back we have CoverGirl, that this is the cartoon version of CoverGirl. We have the Retro Card Televiper, that this is 100% based off of the Sunbow cartoon, especially with the writing going across his visor, which we'll take a look at later. We have the Retro Card Bat, which this is the color scheme for the Sunbow cartoon Bat. We have, of course, our green shirt right here that was put on a retro card, and the green shirts owe their existence to the Sunbow cartoons, like from the very beginning. And we have one that's been out for a while that I really should have taken a look at a long time ago, the retro card Cobra Commander with the vac metal faceplate. And the reason this is in this is because with the blue shirt right there, this is the Sunbow paint job, the Sunbow coloration for Cobra Commander. So we're going to be splitting this into 2 episodes. Episode 1 of the cartoon collection and episode 2 of the cartoon collection will be next week. And with everything that we have here, and well, before we go on, yes, there are other ones that arguably could be added into this, such as Once a Man Cobra Commander, that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for the Sunbow cartoon. And we'll even take a look at Once a Man once we open up the standard Cobra Commander back there. And there's probably going to be more coming that will be added into this. G.I. Joe is, the classified series, that is one of those series that, like, they have been releasing figures from the different walks of G.I. Joe, but they're not really naming them differently. It's just everything is G.I. Joe classified. And let me explain what I mean. Like, if you go to, let's say, Star Wars Black Series, everything is tagged from where it comes from, whether it's like the Clone Wars version, whether it's A New Hope, whether it's the Ahsoka show, Bad Batch, what have you. they separate the figures, the characters, into where their origins lie. Classified isn't doing that, and we're kind of, and I don't mind that, I really don't, but like we're kind of left on our own to like make these little sub collections within Classified. And these figures are 100% going to be, I don't want to say pushed off on their own, but they are definitely going to be like sort of like on a separate shelf. So much to the point that like the Cobra Commander back there, I actually have two of the retro card Cobra Commanders so that I can have one with this set, and then I'll probably put the other one with the standard set. Also, it could be argued that the battle armor Cobra Commander that comes with a helmet with snake eyes on it could be included with this, but I really checked out of G.I. Joe at that point. But I think this right now is our core for like the cartoon collection of G.I. Joe. So what we're going to be taking a look at today in part 1 is just going to be the mass device figures right here. We have our Diver 2-pack, we have Breaker over here, which interestingly enough, even though this is the Sunbow, like I feel like the bubblegum, the bubblegum head sculpt comes from the comics because I don't remember that, but we'll take a look at that in a moment. And then we have, of course, Snake Eyes and the Polar Bear. I know a lot of these are fairly aged at this point, that a lot of channels have already taken a look at these, but I really want to get into these. I really wanted to do episodes on these. And like I said, I have a lot of G.I. Joe that I realized has been sitting around and I haven't gotten to. Some of it will be done on the channel here. Some of it I may just make videos of and put up on my Ko-fi page. Others I just may make shorts out of. That's how much G.I. Joe I have to get caught up on. So, for part 1, go ahead, leave us a like, because today we are looking at Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series, the Cartoon Collection, Mass Device Figure Sets. And the first of the Mass Device sets we're going to be taking a look at is the G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Diver 2-pack. The concept of troop building for G.I. Joe really did come out of the Sunbow cartoon. The comic book was not into that at all. The comic, and I believe the original intention of the G.I. Joe team, was that they were specialists from their respective branches of the military, whether it was Army, Navy, Air Force, or the Marines, and they would be pulled in as a mission dictated. We saw that from the very first issue, that the ones that actually lived in the pit were the ones that were kind of like the core collective, like the original members that were always going to be involved, so they just sort of stayed at G.I. Joe Command, whereas everybody else was pulled as needed. The Sunbow cartoon kind of treated G.I. Joe as another branch of the military, that there was the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and G.I. Joe. So there were a lot of like general recruits for G.I. Joe, which the comic did not have. That is, of course, where we got the green shirts, and that is, of course, where these divers come from. Cobra was always about infantry, about troop building. There were more faceless Cobra troopers than there were named Cobra troopers. So them having like these divers before there were eels made sense. The G.I. Joe team with these yellow divers, yellow and red. I just realized, what's that remind you of? That seems to be a very, that's a common color combination between two figures. Okay, so, but with G.I. Joe having the yellow divers, Torpedo, who was the leader, was in his blues, in his blue wetsuit. So this is 100% a product of the Sunbow cartoon, not just because of the mass device, but just because of the concept of these two figures, especially with G.I. Joe having just a troop builder. This is 100% a product of Sunbow. What we have is our standard 2-pack box with the large window. You can see all of the kibble on the inside which, if you think, we've pretty much seen all of this, and we'll talk about that more once we get the box open. We have our mass device emblem down here. We have the classified logo, the title up here. We have the G.I. Joe star and the Cobra logo, the number that they are on the back of the box. We have actually a really cool photo of them in action that it does look like a still from the cartoon, especially with the tube worms in back right there. I gotta be honest, when I was a kid, the tube worms terrified me. For the longest time, I thought these things were real, and just the idea that something this monstrous and this grotesque was living underneath the surface of the ocean, that terrified me as a kid. Right now, I kind of wish they were real, because that would be like just awesome to have something like that on this world. But this fight scene 100% looks like something out of the cartoon. Then over here, we just have the QR code in the blue and the red. Up top over here, we have just some standard art going on. So let's not waste any more time. Let's start looking at let's get this open and take a look at Hasbro G.I. Joe series, the unofficial cartoon collection, mass device, G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Diver 2-pack. So here they are, the two divers out of the packaging, and putting the tape measure to them, we can see that they are 6 1/4 to the top of their head. But I also want to take this minute to address that Hasbro kind of missed an opportunity here. This is the packaging that the divers came in, and you can see that the backdrop, the cardboard insert, is just the G.I. Joe and Cobra backdrops sort of meshed together. The packaging for classified, admittedly, has not always been the best. I've said this before, like, I really liked the windowless packaging with the artwork that was on the boxes, but since they've gone to the windowless packaging, I feel like they've missed a couple of opportunities, because we have these two divers from a very specific scene, a very specific episode in the cartoon, and even on the back right here, we have that photo backdrop for, let's raise this up a little bit, we have that photo backdrop that they posed the two figures against. It would have been really cool if they would have taken that photo with the tube worms and had that as the insert, so then we could have used that as a backdrop for when displaying the figures. So first thing to address, yes, these two figures are exactly the same. And I mean exactly the same, right down to the swappable face portraits, which we'll be taking a look at. But not only are they exactly the same to each other, they are exactly the same when compared to the Navy Action Diver and Torpedo. So they have gotten probably more use out of this body than what they were anticipating. Also, I think, isn't this the same body for the Cobra Eel? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at the Eel. But I'm pretty sure this has been used for Torpedo, the Eel, the Action Diver, and now this Diver 2-pack. Which, quite honestly, considering they were getting their money's worth out of this, I'm surprised that the Diver 2-pack wasn't more available than what it initially was. So taking a look at it, we will look at the articulation, but we're going to breeze right through this because it's everything that you expect. And also, since we've seen this figure before, we know what it can do. That the head can do a full 360. He can look up fairly well. He can look down okay. I wish, considering he was a swimming figure, a swimming character, that he could look up better, because we just have, oh, his neck was turned. We just have the dumbbell joint right here. I really miss the ball joint on the hinge. I think that was a better way to go for being able to look up, but that's just me. The arms will do a full 360 spin. We have a butterfly joint with not a whole lot of travel, but it's there. Arms will come up to there, just a little bit past 90. We have a bicep swivel. Whoop. We have a bicep swivel. We have, ooh, sticking double jointed elbows right there that will close in on themselves. Wrists pivot, wrists hinge up and down because both are weapon wielding hands. We like that. We have our ab crunch right here that our diver can crunch forward. Our diver can crunch back. There is a ball joint at the waist that we can get the full 360 spin out of. There's a little bit of rock back. There's a little bit, but not much rock forward. Some side to side, but not a whole lot to speak about. drop down hips that are sticking as well for the legs to come up to there at 90. Legs will come out to the side. Oh, very well. Pop them back in. We have our thigh cut. We have our double jointed knees that are also sticking. Ooh. Ooh, I should have warmed that up a little bit. Oh, okay, let's not force that one. Let's try this one. Okay, that one is moving much better. Double jointed knees that will close in on itself. And then we don't have a boot cut in the traditional sense, just like with the divers before. Right here at the top of the swim boot, we have a swivel right there. And then the ankles will rock back, the ankles will rock forward, and we have our forward-facing pin for some rocker. Now that we've gotten the articulation out of the way, let's talk about the paint apps on it. Because while these two figures are very reminiscent of the original cartoon of G.I. Joe Yellow and Cobra Red, these are not the exact paint jobs, the exact coloring that they had in the cartoon. First of all, there was no G.I. Joe star for the Joes. The Cobra logo was more off to the side. There was more red in the torso. Their harness was more of an X harness, where G.I. Joe did have this sort of H harness right here. The Cobras had stripes coming down the arms. I only mention this because my thought process behind it is, if you're going to take the effort, like you have the bodies already, and if you're going to take the effort of trying to mimic the look of the Sunbow cartoon, why wouldn't you just go the full Monty with it? And I get not wanting to do another harness because you have the H harnesses, so I understand that. But you could have put the Cobra logo off to the side. You could have given them like the Adidas stripes down the sides of their arms. The Joes, for the most part, the look isn't completely off, but like the Cobra, I feel, is more egregious than the Joe. So that is a very minor nitpick. That's not even really a complaint. It's just a nitpick and wondering why they didn't go full in on the look of the Sunbow cartoon. Also, you'll notice that this belt that is used for holstering their machete is very loose on them. And I think that's because this is the original piece that came with Copperhead. And I'll have to find one of my Copperheads to take a look at it in a minute. But with the waist being much more narrow than what Copperhead's was, it doesn't really get a good grip around the waist. So it is very loose. And since they didn't really use the machetes in the episode, I wouldn't have hated if we didn't have these on there. Because they do kind of, I don't know, I might end up taking mine off. We'll leave it on for the purpose of this episode, but I think eventually I might pop the legs off and then just take the machete holsters off of them. So here we have our two divers with their kit, and you can see that we have seen a lot of this before. Not only have the bodies been reused, but pretty much all of the gear that they come with has been reused. And honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. Like, there's only so many different ways you can do scuba gear. As a matter of fact, the only two times we've seen it deviate from pretty much what we have right here is some of the Eel's gear. We see that Wetsuit is going to have some new gear, and something that we'll be taking a look at later at the end of the episode, the Hydro Viper looks like he has new gear as well. But for this, for a basic troop builder, for something that was based off of the cartoon, I don't have any issue with them doing a reuse for pretty much all of the equipment. Because you can even see right here that we have our standard G.I. Joe, focus in, we have our standard G.I. Joe like scuba pack right here. We have the headpiece that came with Torpedo. I like that the lenses are green, just like they were in the cartoon. You also notice that pretty much everything is color-coded. The only thing that missed its coloring is the machine gun stock for the Cobra diver. They didn't paint it red like they did for the Joe's yellow over here. The flippers are the same as what came with Torpedo. The machete, like I said, we've seen this before. This came with Copperhead the first time. And even the combat knife we've seen, I mean, this came with Torpedo. I believe this came with the Eel. This came with the Action Diver. Speaking of the Action Diver, the only thing that we have here that I don't think didn't come with Torpedo is this little submersible unit right here, which I really dig that they've reused it. And I don't mind that they gave it to Cobra, because Cobra did have like underwater sleds they were piloting in the episode. It wasn't this. They looked much more high tech, and I think they were armed, but this was cool with the action diver. I like that they've revisited it. I don't mind that they gave it to Cobra, because the Joes already have theirs that came with the action diver. So this is like a nice little piece of equipment that can be used with pretty much any of the Cobra divers. Also, we have the harpoon gun, which I've said it once and I'll say it again. Please stop doing this. Military does not use a harpoon gun underwater. This is false. This bugs me in ways you can't even begin to imagine, and I don't really know why. But of course, since this is coming from the cartoon, we have to have the laser rifle. We have the XL right here with the yellow stock. We've seen this many, many times before. As a matter of fact, there are some figures coming up in part 2, and maybe even some more in part 1 right here, that use this rifle sculpt. And if you wanted to do something a little bit more in the real world, we do have the small machine gun that came with Torpedo and came with the action diver. Interestingly enough, in the episode, while they were using lasers underwater, they weren't using the rifles. They had pistols. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get any pistols with the divers, because they have a lot of pistols, especially if they would use some of the sculpts from the early days of Classified, like especially that first wave. There are some pistols that could have been used for laser pistols. Zartan's pistol, for example, could have been used, especially for Cobra, as a laser pistol. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't include that. With the Cobra diver here, we have this rifle, which we've seen before. This came with the first version, the Classified version of Gung Ho. This was one of the 3 rifles that he had, which is kind of like, I don't know, a laser blast pump action shotgun type weapon. And then we have this one right here, which I'm honestly surprised, because despite not being a fan of G.I. Joe having lasers, this is a pretty solid sculpt. I'm actually surprised we haven't used this more often. This was originally Duke's assault rifle from the first release of Duke, the Classified release of Duke. The magazine does not come out. That was before they started doing things like that. I'm actually, now that I mention it, I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't had another reissue. We haven't had another version of Duke come out, because we had the first version, then we had the Tiger Force with the Ram, and then we had the card back. I'm kind of surprised we haven't had like a regular updated Classified Duke, but I digress. So we have multiple rifles for the divers, but we don't have any pistols, which is kind of a bummer. So we have all of their gear right here, and this Cobra agent right here shows you what it's like with the gear on. We have the darkened eye lenses, the blue eye lenses for Cobra, once again, just like they did in the cartoon. You see the headpiece just fits over, or the mask just fits over the headpiece. The hoses connect with the backpack. The backpack plugs in. We have the machete down here in the hip holster. We have a nice little like just equipment pack right there, which I think is pretty cool. And then the dagger fits in on the other thigh right there, blending in with the wetsuit. And then the flippers down here, the flippers just slip off easily. There's no pegging, they just slip right on. There's also like an L on the inside, so you know which one's left and which one is right. I think this is another reason I don't have a problem with the reuse. I do like these diver figures that Hasbro has come up with for G.I. Joe Classified. I think they're very sleek. I like them. Like, I'm very curious to get my hands on Wetsuit and then eventually the Hydro Viper, because I want to see what they've done different, because I think these, quite honestly, are just perfect for having like diver type figures, from the action diver and Torpedo, the Eel, and now these guys. I'm curious to see what they've done different with Wetsuit and the Hydro Viper. A lot is going to be done different with the Hydro Viper, I have no doubt about that. Now, each one of them does come with an additional face sculpt right here. You can see that this one and this one are the same. They just changed the coloring of the headpiece, of the hood, whatever this piece is that divers call it when they pull it over their skull. But if we take a look at, let's pop off his mask and take a look here, that these are slightly different face portraits in there. It's not just a different paint app, because you can see that this one actually has a scar that I think is actually, I don't think that's a paint app. I think that's actually carved in, or is that painted on? Hold on, let me see here. I thought this was, oh no, that might be painted on. Never mind. So I'm guessing these are based, yeah, these are the same. They just have different paint apps. Never mind, I thought these were two different ones because of that scar, but that scar is just painted on. So they are the same, they just have different coloration to them. So there's more troop building potential right there, so that you just don't have legions of these guys that all look the same. You'll have legions of these guys that have two looks to them. But you know, with the masks on, they'll all start to look alike after a while anyway. And then the final product that we have is, of course, the heavy water. Now, the container here we've seen before. The container came with that convention exclusive of Dr. Mindbender from years ago. That he came with a bunch of experimental canisters like this. And you can even pop this open and you can pull the heavy water out. You can see the socket right there that it pegs into. You can close that, you can close that back up. And then you have the heavy water right here, which is just a big swirly translucent piece of plastic with a peg on it. And it kind of makes me wonder if there weren't the potential for larger plans for what they were going to do with the mass device figures. Was there going to be a mass device that you'd be able to pull this out and then plug it into the mass device, and maybe that was abandoned? I don't know. But that is the first of 3 elements that we need for our mass device. Now, on to the next one. And our next one, of course, being Breaker here. And let's readjust that. And our next one being Breaker, and as you can see, we are going to be doing a side-by-side comparison with the original classified version of Breaker. Now, before we even get this open, before we get into this, before we get started, one thing I want to say is, this was a big miss with Breaker. And what I mean by that is, this is the second time that Breaker has been a Target exclusive in the Classified series. The first one here being the figure that came with the Ram, that was a Cobra Island exclusive, that admittedly this was available through other outlets for a brief time, most notably Big Bad Toy Store, but I still feel that the original version of Breaker here was very difficult to get your hands on. This version of Breaker, to complete the Mass Effect set, was also a Target exclusive, was also available in limited quantities, also sold out very quickly online during the pre-order phase. I consider myself lucky that my order didn't get canceled. And once he did go up for sale, how easy was it to find in the stores? Seriously, like how rare was a Breaker sighting at a Target store? I'm living near the East Coast. I know I didn't see him at all in any of the 3 Targets that are around me. So making him a Target exclusive for the second time is actually making Breaker, one of the original Joes, so difficult to get your hands on. Time of recording, there's only one place I've been able to find him in any quantities, and I'm not counting eBay, and that's Big Bad Toy Store. Albeit at an incredibly inflated price to get your hands on him. I am leaving links to everything in the show notes below, as always. I'll leave a link to Breaker at Big Bad Toy Store. I honestly can't find him anywhere else. He's out of stock at Target. He's not available on Hasbro Pulse. He's not available on Amazon. He is available on eBay, but at stupidly inflated prices. And even at Big Bad Toy Store, this single figure is going for $40. So to not make this breaker a standard, like just a general figure at retail, to make up for the mistake that was made with this one, making it again with the same character, that's a huge miss for Hasbro. There are so many collectors, I am sure, that are frustrated because they weren't able to get their hands on Alvin here the second time around. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, taking a look at the packaging, and by the way, this is slightly decked out, a little bit kitted out more. He has the backpack from Lieutenant Falcon. This assault rifle was from one of my Action Force weapons packs, and the sidearm and silencer that he carries is from one of my Snake Eyes. So I didn't want to give him the minigun from the Ram, which is kind of what they alluded to on the packaging, so I just decked him out with infantry gear and a communications pack. Now, this one over here, we have our new standard for G.I. Joe packaging, window box, all the kibble inside. We have our Mass Effect logo down here. On the back, we have a fairly decent shot of him at the volcano where they got the meteorite from. He has just a pistol with a suppressor on the packaging, which kind of surprises me. I don't think he comes with an XL rifle, which is also going to surprise me. But we are taking a look at also some of the highlights. We have his wrist piece right here, and we have his chest piece, which we'll look at once we get it open. We have some decent artwork of him on the side right here, blowing the bubble. His little control panel down, which already, right off the bat, we know there's going to be reuse from Grunt. And then on this side, QR code, these symbols that I don't know what they mean. G.I. Joe star up top. Barcode on the bottom there. Oh, let's focus in. There it is if you want to scan it to try and find one for yourself. And now, without further ado, let's open this up and we will take a look at the second part of the Mass Effect series, Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Breaker. And here he is, Breaker, out of the packaging, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that just like the divers, he is roughly 6 1/4 to the top of his head. Well, maybe a little, maybe more like 6 3/8 to the top of his head. So Breaker here is reuse pretty much from neck to toe, because the torso, the body armor, the crotch piece, the belt, the legs, even the side pouches here, and the boots are all reuse from Grunt. The arms with the rolled up sleeves, I believe these came from either Clutch or Rock and Roll, or maybe both. But I identify these mostly with Clutch, especially with the timepiece down here. Now, the coloring may seem a little odd, but in the cartoon, Breaker's coloring was a little off. It was definitely more gray than it was green. It was this bluish gray that we have going on right here. My issue is that if they were going for a cartoon accurate version of Breaker, it shouldn't have been this. It shouldn't have been this armor. The underneath, the body, the torso, the sleeves, everything else is fine. This, I don't think works. What they should have done was something more like the gear that they gave Short Fuse, where it was basically just like another H harness that he had on there to hold on his backpack and his gear back there. This, I mean, I kind of think they just wanted to reuse Grunt's chest piece just because they liked it and they wanted to get their money's worth out of it. Something that is worth noting is my decal is crooked right there. So it does look like his gear is a little wonky, just pointing that out. Other than that, like, I do think it's a decent figure. I do think most of his gear right here works for him. I also kind of dig the head sculpt. Now, in the Sunbow cartoon, I remember Breaker's head being more round or maybe even oval shaped, but they have to fit it into the helmets that they have. So I'm fine with that. But I do like the face sculpt right here. I think it's pretty good. Now, I actually like the original classified head sculpt better, and we will be taking a look at them side by side in a minute here. But first off, let's just rip through the articulation. It's pretty much going to be what you expect. Full turn, dumbbell joint, so he doesn't really have much up and down. He has a little bit of side to side. Arms rotate 360. Has a butterfly joint in here that actually has more movement than the divers did. Arms will come up to just over 90. Bicep swivel at the sleeve. Double jointed elbows. Wrists pivot. This wrist hinges in and out. This wrist hinges up and down. There is an ab crunch underneath the armor here, but the armor does severely interfere with the articulation. Ball joint at the waist, get a full 360, gets a little bit of lean back, gets a little bit of lean forward, gets some side to side. Drop down hips, legs come up to 90. Even with the gear on, the legs come out to the side very well. Thigh cut, double jointed knee, sticks, double jointed knees. Boot cut, ankles rock back, ankles rock forward, forward facing pin for some rocker. And like I said, if you look at all of this gear, including even the belt right here, this is all from Grunt. I do have to admit that I like the silver that they added at the clasps on the belt. Makes it pop, makes it stand out a little bit more. But yeah, my biggest issue, not minding the reuse, my biggest issue with the way that he looks, with the way that he's done up, is this shouldn't be here. There should be a different harness set up for him. So in addition to the standard head sculpt, we also have the blowing a bubble head sculpt right here, which I question this being on this figure because I don't remember him chewing gum and blowing a bubble being a thing in the Sunbow cartoon as much, if at all, as I remember it being in the comics. I mean, General Flag was always yelling at Breaker for popping his gum, especially when he was on comms, keeping in mind that back then he probably had like a field phone or something up to his ear, so when Breaker popped the gum, it was like snapping right in his ear. I don't remember him having this. Now, let's take this off and let's pop this back on and let's bring our Ram Breaker in. That the two of them actually kind of look the same. As a matter of fact, this one to me looks like an older version of this one. That they did a pretty good job. I actually like this one better though, because I always pictured Breaker being kind of like younger. I don't know why. Like I always pictured him being like one of the quote unquote kids of the team, especially in the beginning. So I kind of do like this one better. What I have an issue with, and it's not even an issue, but what's kind of annoying to me is that we have this great, blowing a bubble head sculpt that I would love to put on the original Breaker, but the ball joint is bigger. It doesn't fit. The skin tone would have been a little off, but I would have really loved to have put that head sculpt on the original Breaker, especially when putting on the newer helmet, because look at that. That just fits perfectly. That would have been really cool, because I do like the sort of like steel core headgear that the original comes with. Let's put that on him. Now, if we take the helmet, and I know we haven't even looked at the accessories yet, but if we take the helmet that he comes with, like it fits, but I don't know. I kind of liked that one better than this. And that does bring us to his gear, and we're going to start with his knife right here. It's not bad. It's fairly small. It's fairly featureless. We have some grips for the handle. I do appreciate that the blade was painted silver. I think this is the same sort of like K-bar that Grunt comes with, because it does fit into his chest sheath, or his shoulder sheath, very well right there. I like that. Then the weapon they gave him is this suppressed 1911 with an extended magazine that I always love me a 1911, so I'm not going to be upset about that. And the suppressor is a cool touch as well. But once again, considering this is a cartoon or a figure based off of the Sunbow cartoon, I'm kind of surprised they didn't give him the laser rifle, because everybody in the cartoon was using the laser rifle. Now, just like with Grunt, we have this holster back here, and then we have this compartment. Oh, we got to turn him a little to fit it in there. We have this holster right here to hold the suppressor, but I feel like that doesn't go deep enough. Okay, so I was trying to get the suppressor into this back pouch right here, but this pouch isn't made for this. This does not fit in there. It's too long. There's actually some sort of insert in here that prevents this from going in all of the way. And I went down and I looked at my Grunt figure to figure out how I got this in for Grunt. And the answer is I didn't. Grunt didn't come with a suppressor. He just has the holstered 1911 back there, and this pouch is left empty. So, yeah, we have a suppressor for his sidearm, but no place to put it. So we're just going to set that down for there right now. And we're going to keep looking at his gear. He has a communications pack, which if I do have an issue with the original breaker that we got with the RAM, it's that he didn't have a comms pack right here. That's why I gave him the pack from Falcon. He needs to have that antenna coming up. He definitely needs this. If this would have been like a real 80s remake, it would have been cool if it would have had like the field phone attached to it. I think in the comic a couple of times he actually did have that phone back there, and Hawk and Duke were able to like just pop it off of his pack. But I also like that there is this frame right here, because the framing does match up with his body armor here. Just peg it in, and it has a nice tight fit. Looks like it goes together right there. We've seen the helmet. The helmet is actually a repurposed helmet that we've seen numerous times from Grunt. Short Fuse has something like this, only his mic piece cuts off right about there. I think they extended Breaker's mic piece because of that bubblegum head sculpt that he has. So there we go. And then we have this big old wire right here that plugs into the side, like so, and then plugs into the back of his helmet, like so. And much like the 80s toys, you have a lot of wire right there that's just kind of looped out for Breaker to get some head movement, which I don't mind. Like, that, it is what it is. Like, the toys are going to be like that. You can kind of, I wonder what happens if I roll this a little to try and pull it a little tighter. It just wants to pop back into place right there. So, yeah, let's try. I don't think it's going to stay. Maybe a little, but there we go. There's Breaker fully kitted out. It just would be nice if we had some place to put his suppressor. And the last thing we have to take a look at is his Mass Effect mass device. How many times have I said Mass Effect during this video so far? You know, man, sorry about that. His mass device element, and that is Meteorite here. It comes in the same case that the divers had. You just pop that open. You can take the element out. Once again, we have a peg on the bottom of the element. We have a socket on the bottom of the tray. Only thing that I would have liked to have seen, and this is such a minor nitpick, is if they would have baked some glitter into the element right here. Because it's meteorite, because it's a metal, it would have been really cool if they would have put some glitter in there just to give it like a little bit of a metallic, a little bit of a metallic sparkle right there. But it does work. It does look good. I just keep thinking that there were plans to make a mass device, and that's why you would be able to plug these in. Or it's just how they're plugging into it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but we can talk about that in a few minutes because there is one more that we have to take a look at. And that is, of course, Snake Eyes and his polar bear right here. And this is the one that I'm the most excited about because I have heard and seen great things about this bear up front with the window, all of the kibble on the inside. Looks like we get some really cool stuff with Snake Eyes. We have the Mass Device logo down here. On the side, we have the QR code over here. This is a great image of just Snake with the dagger out, the canister in hand, and that, oh crap, looking up over his shoulder at the bear in the darkness. On the back here, we have this great diorama photo of, look at this guy, just look at him up on his hind legs. Like, I'm really hoping we can get him to pose like that. And then Snake Eyes just like, whoa, bear, whoa. So without further ado, let's just crack this open and let's take a look at the last of the cartoon collection for part 1, and that is the G.I. Joe Classified Series Mass Device Snake Eyes and his polar bear. So here we go, Snake Eyes and the bear out of their packaging, and putting the tape measure to them, we can see that Snake Eyes is approximately 6¼ inches tall to the top of his head. The bear is about 4 inches tall to the top of his shoulder, about 4½ inches tall to the top of his rump, and from butt to nose, he looks to be about 8¼ inches long. And to answer the question I myself asked, yes, he can stand on his own on his hind legs, and when he's standing like this, he is 9½ inches tall to the top of his head. So Snake Eyes here is complete reuse. Let's just get that out of the way right up front. This is complete reuse from the retro-carded, basically Commando Snake Eyes. And I do have that version of Snake Eyes. I just only have one, and I have it in the retro card, and it looks so good carded that I haven't opened him up yet. But the more I look at him, and especially once I have this one in hand, the more I kind of want to rip it open and get him out of the packaging, because he does look really cool as a, you know, G1 first wave Snake Eyes from the vintage line. He looks really good. Now the body here, the buck, all of this we've seen before. They were using this for a while for a bunch of the older Joes. Most notably, this was basically a blacked out repaint of Stalker, which is actually fine because if you remember back to that vintage line, pretty much all of those bodies, with some exception like Grand Slam and Flash and Clutch, they all basically had the same body, just slightly different paint jobs to it. So this is going to be a very basic G.I. Joe buck, nothing that we haven't seen before. Now he does have a sort of bluish purple, especially the visor right here, paint job to him, because at the time when they were doing the cartoon, it was very difficult to do like a completely black character and have any sort of detail to them. So he just sort of ended up turning out to be like this dark bluish purple color, which is fine. But at the time as a kid, when I didn't understand what was happening, I was like, why is Snake Eyes blue? He should be wearing all black. But it is what it is. Also, the hands right here. If you haven't seen the episode and don't know why the hands are this sort of irradiated pink, it's because he was radiated. He was suffering from like some kind of radiation sickness at the time, because the crystals that he gathered for the mass device were radioactive. And why were they radioactive? Because it was the 80s, and we constantly lived in fear of being 3 minutes to midnight, and everything bad was radiation at the time. So his hands were glowing. His hands in the cartoon, for some reason, weren't covered. He wasn't wearing gloves. As a matter of fact, with this version of Snake Eyes, we do get standard trigger hands, which we'll put on him in a second. But this was the only part of his body that showed through this whole outfit. So let's look at the articulation. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. Head goes all the way around. Head can look up. Head can kind of look down. We have some decent tilt side to side. Arms will do a 360. We have a short butterfly joint right there. Arms will come up just over 90. Bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows. Oh, that one is sticking now too. Double jointed elbows that close in on themselves. Wrists pivot. This one hinges. Does this go up and down? Oh yeah, this one hinges up and down. And this one hinges up and down. So both of them hinge up and down, which is nice. You can see he has the torso cut right here that is kind of well hidden by his gear right here. So he can crunch forward very much. He can crunch back very well. He has a ball joint at the waist. We'll give him that full 360. Really nothing back and forth. Barely anything side to side. Drop down hips. Legs come up, past 90. Legs come out to the side very well. Push it back in. We have our thigh cut. We have our double jointed knees that will really close in well on themselves. Boot cut. Ankles rock back. Ankles rock forward. And we have a forward facing pin for some rocker. As a Snake Eyes character, he is definitely going to be a standout on the shelf, mainly because of the coloring, the paint job. Although with the, the version 4 that just came out, and I don't have that yet, he may actually just, blend real well with that one. Now let's take a look at the bear, because I feel like the bear is what everybody's waiting to see. That this sculpt, there is some weight to this. There is some heft to this. There is no doubt about that. The sculpt to it is great. I love that even up top where it's smooth fur, you still have the ridges of the fur. You have that ridge going down the spine of the bear. Then down here, you have all of this fur hanging, just like you would on a polar bear. That's like, this is what's wet, this is what's been dragging on the ground. You have the tufts of fur coming off the back of the legs. In the back, everything is kind of smoothed over as well. I really love this. The scarring on the face, like this bear has seen some stuff. The black lips, the sharp white fangs. Even down here, they did a really good job of detailing the pads of the bear's paws. And look at the size of this dude's claws right here. This is... Other people have said it, and I've even mentioned it before, that like Hasbro needs to do like a line of animals. That would be really cool. They are doing so well with the articulation on their animals here that it kind of makes you wonder like why they haven't done like a zoo line or a safari line or something like that. So with the articulation, the front legs will come out a little bit. You can see that right there. They will go forward. They'll actually go all the way around, but there's really no point to it. They'll come back that far. We have an elbow that can fold back on itself. We have the paw that will pivot, and it hinges up and down as well. There's no side-to-side rocker, but they're on the back ones. We'll take a look at that. And there's also toe articulation for the bear right there, which I think is fantastic. The head, the neck will come all the way up. The neck will go all the way down for whenever you're putting him on in bipedal mode. There's also some side-to-side twist to this. Oh, snake. This part of the head pivots very well as well, and it goes all the way around. You can do the side-to-side twist on that one too. Let's get him out of here. The back legs will come all the way up. They'll go forward that far. We have knee joint right here. There is a swivel. Is there a swivel here? Oh yeah, there is a swivel there as well. And then we have a swivel at the knee. The ankles will rock back. Ankles rock forward. This one does have some ankle rock right there for when you put them up on all twos. And he has, oh no, he doesn't have the articulation on the toes at the back, just up front. So the articulation on him is so good. And before we move on to Snake Eyes, the bear does come with some accessories. That we have the, I don't want to say friendly face, but not angry, hateful face. You can pop that off, and then you can pop this one on, and you get this ferocious, savage, snarling face, which, wow, look at that. The black outlining of the lips, the blackish purple of the tongue, the sharp fangs, once again, the scars moving with the movement of the head sculpt. I also love how the fur isn't all completely white, that you do have some dirtying of the fur in various places just to bring out some detail, to give it some dimension, just to give it a different look. I really like that. And then over here, we have the piece that everybody likes, is that this fur piece right here actually pops off. And you can see some meat underneath there too. Like if you pulled that piece off, like the fur came off, the muscle is exposed. But then you also have this piece right here that you can pop in place. Come on, pop in place. That you can pop in place right there that has the arrows in the shoulder. And this is when the blind hermit came and shot the bear in the shoulder to chase him off so Snake Eyes didn't get ate. I don't know if 2 arrows would drive off a polar bear, but it was it was a noble effort, and that is a really nice touch. So now you got like these arrows sticking out of a polar bear with this snarling face. Like this is a bear that's ready for battle. I freaking love this thing. This looks fantastic. So now that we've taken a look at the bear's accessories, let's take a look at Snake Eyes. You can see that he has the radioactive trigger hands coming out of the box. He has a pair of radioactive clenched fists. He has a pair of radioactive knife hands right here. And like I showed you before, he has a pair of standard trigger hands. These are the only standard hands that he comes with. Everything else is those pinkish red radioactive hands. But this is how he was presented in at least the first season of the cartoon. In the second season of the Sunbow cartoon, I think it was the second season, is when he went to his ninja look with the visor. And once again, he wasn't black. He was more gray rather than this blue, but he still wasn't like a completely black figure or a completely black character in the cartoon. So yeah, I don't know why they had his hands sticking out. The only thing I can think is that because it was before the miniseries, they just had his hands out just for the purpose of being able to see them glow red when he became irradiated. So taking a look at his accessories, Snake Eyes actually has more than I was expecting. Like, they really went deluxe with this package, I have to admit. Like, the bear alone, I can't talk enough about this bear. This bear is fantastic. But we also have this small dagger right here, this combat knife, which we've seen before. It's not really the K-bar style combat knife that we've had with a couple of other figures, but it is a decent enough piece, and that goes in, it's kind of short, that goes in on the thigh sheath right there. Then we have a holster on the side that we have this 1911 for, which I really dig the paint job that they did on this. Silvering up the slide like that and making the handle and the trigger just like this sort of like poly black down here. This looks really cool. I really love when they do like little touches of paint on their weapons like this. This looks so good. And this goes in his other side on his other thigh. Now you'll notice we have the holster for the pistol, and then we have this right here with nothing to put in it. This is what threw me when I opened this and I saw that there was nothing there, because this is Breaker's suppressor, and we didn't have any place to put the suppressor on Breaker. Now if we take Snake Eyes' sidearm, it fits together very well, like it should be there. And then we also, on Snake Eyes, let's just holster his sidearm, the suppressor fits into the front pouch right there. So I think Snake Eyes is going to get Breaker's suppressor because it kind of completes this for him, and Breaker didn't have any place to put it. So there we go. And then finally, for the last of the weapons, he has his XL laser rifle right here. And once again, the silvering and the black, this looks great. I really like the metallic silver that they're using on his weapons for this one. The pistol and the rifle matching. This looks really good. I have to admit, for not being a fan of G.I. Joe having lasers, this looks really good. I have to admit that as part of the cartoon, with all of the Joes having like a standard issue rifle, I did like that as an idea. That like there was a standard issue weapon that they all had, like not for somebody like Rock and Roll or Flash, but I really did dig. Come on, get in there. I really did dig that like they had their own unique weapon, and the rifle does have a nice design. I just don't like, oh, that finger is too gummy. It keeps moving around. Look how it's sort of like broken right there. Um, I did like the design. I do like the design of the XL right here. I just don't dig that it's like a laser rifle. When Snow Job originally came with this one, I just pretended it was some prototype assault rifle and somehow there was a magazine that loaded into the handle right here. So there we go. Snake Eyes decked out. It's just, to me, it's odd seeing him without the Uzi. Now in the comics, he's not using the Uzi anymore either, but like, it's just really odd to me to see him without the Uzi. Now we have a couple of other accessories to take a look at. We have a bear trap, and it's a working bear trap. The teeth will close in on it. And we have the chain. The chain will pop off as well. We have this anchor point. Nothing to anchor it down to, but it's cool that we have the ringlet right there. I mean, it's a simple design, but it looks good. It works. I think, if I remember correctly, in the cartoon, Snake Eyes was the one that got his ankle caught in the bear trap, which is what was holding him when the bear showed up. And then finally, of course, we have our radioactive crystals right here. In the same container that we've seen before. Pop the lid off, pop this out, and I appreciate that all three elements are different sculpts, because Hasbro very easily could have just made one piece and made it in three different colors with three different design or three different looks. But I really appreciate that we got three different sculpts for all of the elements. Now this is just, I think this is more or less how Cobra delivered it, because we also have this radioactive container. And I'm trying to remember right now. I should have watched the episode before I did this episode. I'm trying to remember if it was that Cobra was carrying it in this containment unit and Snake Eyes only had it in this, and that's why he was suffering from radiation poisoning. I can't remember which was which, but this was a vessel that was used to carry the radioactive crystals so that the carrier would not become irradiated. I'm pretty sure it was Snake Eyes. What amused me was the blind hermit that saved Snake Eyes from the bear basically just took Snake Eyes back to his cabin, laid him down, and like washed his clothes, and all of a sudden like he no longer had radiation poisoning. The only thing this set is missing, to be honest, is timber. However, we have had so many timbers with so many different Snake Eyes that I'm willing to bet that you have at least one timber that you can put with this set. Because this is also when, in the cartoon, Snake Eyes got timber. And so there we have it, part one of the self-titled cartoon collection. Now, over the years, as I've done episodes on G.I. Joe, I have stated that I was not really a big fan of the Sunbow cartoon. That's not entirely true. I did enjoy the cartoon for what it was. It was just that I liked the Marvel Comics continuity better than what was being put on the screen. There were some conceits of the cartoon that, like, I just didn't like, that didn't really sit well with me. One of them being the green shirts. I wasn't a big fan of that. I also didn't like how whenever a Sky Striker or a Rattler or a Night Raven was shot out of the sky, there was always that parachute at just the last minute. It didn't feel like there were any real stakes to what I was watching. But it was fun entertainment. I did enjoy it. I would sit down and watch it every time it was on. I watched probably up until G.I. Joe the movie, and this set being a representation of that cartoon, while it's not entirely screen accurate, especially with like the diver suits and Breaker's body armor, like it is a very good, I feel, representation of what we had, especially Snake Eyes and this bear. I cannot get over how much I like Snake Eyes and his bear right here. Like, this is fantastic. The only thing that I have a criticism for on this, other than like some minor nitpicks that I had mentioned throughout the episode, is that it doesn't seem like Hasbro is going any further than this. There is so much more they could have done with like a Mass Device line other than just the contained pieces. You could have very easily brought in other characters, other figures that, like, were different for the G.I. Joe line was something that we wouldn't get otherwise. Like, for example, I can't remember his name, but the big guy that Duke had to fight in the Cobra arena, or the blind guy and his dog sled that saved Snake Eyes. We have that from Super 7 in a reaction form, but to be able to get something like that, like a full dog sled and the Hermit, that would be awesome for this set. I just feel like this is all the further they're going with it, unfortunately, when there's so much more they could have done, or they could have gone ahead and just brought out stuff from the Weather Dominator as well. If I remember correctly, I think with Pythona, we even got a crystal from the BET from G.I. Joe the movie. So they're like peppering in little things here and there for or from the cartoon, but it doesn't seem like they're like going the full route with it. This was part one. Come on back next week for part two, where we take a look at Cobra Commander, the Televiper, the Bat, the Green Shirt, and Cover Girl. And also stick around for the end of this episode, because right now we're going to be jumping back into the living room and let's talk about the G.I. Joe Day render reveals. Okay, so of course we're going to talk about those render reveals from G.I. Joe Day. However, it is very late and Mac is very tired, so we're just going to cut to the chase with a lot of these. First off, I'm pretty much excited about all of the ones that are coming out. I think they have a pretty good variety of figures that are coming out for the Joes and for Cobra. And the first one we're going to talk about is Airtight right here. This one is one that has been a long time coming. I feel like fans have really been waiting for Airtight right here. He's kind of like one of those unsung fan favorite type deals where, like, I feel like with every wave, everybody was saying, this is when we're going to get Airtight, this is when we're going to get Airtight, but he still never showed up. Now here he is, and he looks good. He looks like the vintage figure all grown up. They haven't really done much different with him. The only thing that's really different that I can tell is that he's coming with a sidearm this time, rather than just having his big vacuum thing. I think that's what it was supposed to be. I was never really sure if it, when I was a kid, I was never really sure if it was like a vacuum to suck up the chemicals, or if it was a blower that like infected the area. I think that's how I played it, that like he was involved in chemical warfare, broke numerous tenets of the Geneva Convention, and just like gassed the entire room. The next one we're going to be talking about is the 2-pack of Red Dog and Taurus. And, I mean, we knew this one was coming. There was already a name reveal for it. Plus, we had the Sergeant Slaughter and Mercer 2-pack. So this is going to finish off the Renegades right here. And I honestly feel like this is the better 2-pack. I'm not even lying about that. I really, really like the scimitar, Taurus's scimitar in this. I think that looks really good. And I also am kind of digging that he comes with a football and Red Dog comes with a football holding hand. I think that is a really cool addition to it. I like a lot of the weapons, a lot of the accessories that are coming with this. And also, Red Dog looks good, but Taurus looks great. Taurus was always my favorite of the Renegades, even when I was a kid. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on Taurus. And I love that they gave him like these elaborate, over-the-top, the scimitar and the axe. I think they're going to look great on him. Now, the other one that I think is a big fan favorite, and they've been waiting for it, is the Hydro Viper right here. I didn't have the Hydro Viper when I was a kid. I preferred the eels. But also, like, by the time the Hydro Viper came out in the vintage line, the eels were pretty old, so people who missed the eels really didn't have, like, Cobra divers, so the Hydro Viper was your second shot at it. And I think the difference between them, it was supposed to be like the eels were your frogmen, your amphibious soldiers, but the Hydro Vipers were like Cobra's seals, or at least that's the way I saw it in my head. And this figure actually looks really cool. I didn't get, like I said, the vintage line. I'm definitely going to be getting this one. I just love that, like, demon scuba mask that he has, that demon face scuba mask that he wears, and like those sort of like demon claw flippers that go with it. They really love putting pets with their figures lately. So we're getting that manta ray, which also the manta ray looks really cool. I don't think the original one came with the manta ray. I think they're just throwing it in. Not entirely sure about that, but I do like this whole setup. I also really dug the colors of the Hydro Viper. Like, you just can't miss with this one. It's out there, it's weird, it's wild, and it's going to add a little something extra to the line that like breaks up the uniformity of a lot of the Cobra figures, because like with that demon scuba mask alone, that's just going to make them pop and going to make them stand out. Now the next one for Cobra is Overkill, and I'm kind of very meh about this one. Like, I don't dislike it, and I'm not upset that he's coming out. Overkill was actually one of those talking commando figures that had those big backpacks that like you press the button and they said stuff. That was like when the line was getting really weird and really gimmicky, and it's just really amusing to me to see one of those hit the classified line. Now, as a classified figure, he looks pretty cool. I like the interchangeable hand accessories that he has. There's a piece right there that I don't think goes on the hand. It actually looks like it clips into the shoulder and is like a camera or a cannon that comes up over the shoulder. Also, that big weapon of his, I thought originally that was reuse of the Saw Viper machine gun, but it's not. That looks like something new. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go back to the well and reuse that big Horkin railgun that like the V1 Roadblock was using to give to this guy. I think that would have worked, but I'm kind of digging this new weapon that they've made for Overkill right here. Now we're getting to the ones that I'm really excited about, and now we have Zanya. And as far as I can remember, this finishes off the family, this being Zartan's daughter. She looks fantastic. I really like the coloring of her hair. I really like the coloring of her outfit. There is a like alternate version of her that was a con exclusive. I'll be very curious to see if they make a version of her with that paint deco on. I really love that chromed like Jason Voorhees hockey mask head sculpt that she has going on. She comes with the worst shotgun of the line, unfortunately, but she also comes with that huge scoped 6-shooter that we originally got with Copperhead. It's really cool that they're reusing that because I really like that design. I really like that weapon, and I think it's going to be great for her. Also, she comes with the Chameleon, the Swamp Skier, and this is something that has been missing from the Dreadnoks ranks. It was originally supposed to come with Zartan because, you know, the vintage, it did come with Zartan, but when Zartan came out, that was before they were even thinking about putting like even small vehicles like this with the line. So I'm really excited that not only are we getting Zanya, but we're also getting the Swamp Skier. And she goes with it, like, I think she's going to look good on it. The coloring and everything, the whole deal looks like it's just going to be so, so good. And then, of course, that leads us into Daddy Dearest, which is Zartan. Ninja Force Zartan, to be specific. Big surprise that they came out with this one. He's not my favorite Zartan. Ninja Force in general, a lot of those weren't my favorite. I wasn't real big on the fluorescent pinks, but it's a Zartan, it's a Dreadnok. More than likely, I'm going to end up getting him. This will be Zartan number 5, because we had the first Zartan, then we had the retro card Zartan that was the cartoon collection, or like the cartoon figure of Zartan. Then we had the Con exclusive, or the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Zartan with the silver armor and the color change body. And then we have Cold Slither Zartan, so Ninja Force will be our 5th Zartan. I like what they're doing with the compound bow. I really like the compound bow because if you look, it's in its draw position in the image, but then there's that other piece that it looks like you'll be able to take the draw string out and then put in a relaxed string so you can have it either at draw or standard and relaxed. It also looks like the sonic imager that he used when he took out the Hardmaster is mounted to the bow as well. That's really cool. I'm really excited about that because that bow could be used across any of the Zartans along with that quiver right there. And then in addition to the bow, of course, he comes with his Ninja Force gear, his swords, his daggers, and his comma right there. And then there is this one, the mystery one, the classified one. And a lot of people, understandably, are guessing that this is going to be a classified Wild Bill. Maybe a Wild Bill in the Funimation, or not the Funimation, the Sunbow colors, the blue uniform with like the orange vest, things like that, just so that you can get a Wild Bill that isn't attached to the Dragonfly. And I don't doubt that eventually we're going to be getting that version of Wild Bill. But hear me out. We've been getting things like this, the Legacy Collection. Yes, this is the Firefighter. Yes, I haven't opened this yet. But we have the Legacy Collection Firefighter. We have the Legacy Collection Police Officer. We should be getting a Legacy Collection Paramedic. Plus we had all of like those action figures. We had like the action diver for the Navy. We had the action sniper for the Marines. The action halo jumper for the Air Force, and the action soldier for the Army. So we've been getting all of those Legacy Collection figures. What if this is the Wild West Cowboy? Because back in the day, in the 12-inch line, there was a G.I. Joe figure that was called the Wild West Cowboy. What if this is another Legacy figure that they're going to start branching out into the other figures from those old Legacy collections from the G.I. Joe 12-inch line? What if that's what they're doing? Because this figure, yes, he looks like he could be Wild Bill, but this figure with the hat also looks like he's wearing a poncho, plus he comes with a tomahawk. That's just my guess. I'm not saying that's what it is. Everybody else is probably right. It probably is going to be a Wild Bill. But my guess, just for funsies, is that this is the Wild West Cowboy. What do you think of that? Let me know. Comment down below. Happy New Year, everyone. It's a new year in the same living room, and I want to thank you all for coming back and ringing in 2026 with me. You all know the deal by now. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, I would ask you that you click the button down below. We're at a little over 1,700 subscribers right now, and I have a goal of shooting for 2,000 by the end of the year. Don't forget that we offer channel memberships by clicking the button down below, and we have subscriptions through my Ko-fi page, linked to that in the show notes below. So one more time, Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.